Hello everyone, we have done the worst skills and now we are going to do the best skills. Criteria will be about the same, but a couple of things are going to change and I am going to clarify a little bit better this time the first minute and a half opening here. Let me start off saying there is no DLC involved, and the reason for that is if you don't have DLC, I don't want to ruin anything, and the trinkets and the skills in the DLC can change, and I'll mention a couple of that throughout the video here. A slight difference this time, I'm actually going to pick the best skills, which means I'm going to be comparing across characters. Thus, it's no longer like which skill you don't use in the character set, it's which one you essentially can't live without and how that ranks above other skills. Aspects of this are going to be damage increases, rogue versatility, control, what it does for your party, and so on and so on. Finally, I will be doing the top 10 with considerations at the end as normal. So let's just get into this before we talk too much more. Abomination, Rage, number 10. We get to Rage on the Abomination, and out of all the Abomination skills pre-DLC, Rage is probably the best and by far one of the better abilities in the game. With 105 accuracy and almost a 12% crit modifier, this ability is incredibly useful if you like your transformation based Abomination. The reason why I didn't put Manacles up here is because Manacles does become probably arguably the best stun in the game. With DLC, there's a trinket that adds a lot of stun percent chance as well, but Rage really allows you to hammer the third position quickly and with a critical, thus you may even slide up the fourth position very quickly the next turn. Thus in 2 turns you can have the third dead and the fourth already in position for you to use other abilities on. It's an incredibly useful ability. It offers high sustained damage because when you transform you get other buffs. And that other buff is adding 25% damage and 5 speed when you transform. So not only are you transforming into more speed and more damage, you also get that juicy crit modifier plus hitting the third row. It's an excellent ability, almost a must-have on the Abomination if you transform him. Crusader, Inspiring Cry, number 9. Inspiring Cry is by far probably one of the all-round best utility-based skills in terms of healing stress heals. Anywhere, anytime in your party, gives you plus 10 torch, minus 8 stress, and 2 HP guaranteed. So with a couple of trinkets and other stuff, you can easily get that stress heal above 10. You can get the heal to 3, not really worth pushing to 4. However, 3 HP at the end of the fight, if you have stun control, if you can do that twice, that's 6 HP, 16 stress, and almost a full torch you gain. Each torch gives 25, this would give you 20. Inspiring Cry is a great way to get people off death's door, a great way to reduce stress, and keep that light level up to A, save yourself HP from critical strikes, and B, more increased stress the lower the torch goes, and this will obviously stop the torch from going lower. All around a great ability. I prefer this over Battle Heal. I know Battle Heal can get bigger in terms of heals. However, for me, this ability is just too good not to have on because I don't see it as a main heal. The heal is nice, but really that stress and torch gained is beautiful as well. And if you get a crit with the HP and the stress heal, it's amazing. You get like 4 to 6 HP, 12 stress removed, and torch. Absolutely probably one of the best skills in the game. Man-at-Arms Bolster, number 8. This one was a tough one for me and I'll just admit it now. Bolster is a great ability if your playstyle is to take 1 turn to just prep, because it is minus 20% stress for the whole battle. This is not something you have to keep up. That is a Book of Sanity on everybody, which is amazing. Plus 10 dodge, which is about high. It's about high dodge. It's not very high dodge, but just getting a generic 10 dodge and minus 20% for the whole fight wherever you're at, I think is phenomenal. You may not like this skill as much if you're a little bit of the faster gung-ho type. You may not like taking a turn to increase your dodge and stress, but if you don't mind taking things a little slower, and if your party is susceptible to high stress damage, this ability will certainly help you. And I know I was mentioning DLCs and that they're not going to be added, but there is an item that can make this ability broken. I'm not really going to go into it. If you have the DLC, you've probably done it, or you've seen people do it. Pseudo for that as well. I put that on the top 10 list because this ability can break the game with a certain item. The Man-at-Arms comes in at number 8 just due to the fact that it's in whole party use and the minus stress is just too darn good. It also allows you to work effectively in cheese comps if you like them as well. Houndmaster, Hounds Rush, number 7. I was honestly debating between this and Hound's Harry, and the reason why I didn't pick Hound's Harry is it's pretty much solely reliant on getting that bleed off, which means in a couple of dungeons that quickly falls off. Unlike Hound's Rush, Hounds Rush can practically be used from anywhere, positions 2 to 4 on your side, and here's the kicker, it can hit 1 through 4 on the enemy side, and that's why I placed it above a couple of the other marked based abilities. It's 100% damage versus marked, which is amazing, 105 accuracy, which is about average, crit modifier of 9%, once again, pretty darn good, and it does have just that little bit of bleed, so even if you're attacking the people with a decent protection, you can eventually chip away with some bleed, so that works really well. And if you get a crit, obviously 2 points for 5 rounds, it really begins to add up, and the increased damage against beasts is no joke at all, which is why Hounds Rush in the Warrens with a mark is probably one of the strongest quick damage skills in the game. You don't need a lot of time to work up to it. If you've seen my videos, there's been many times I've practically shot swine skivers with a dog bone and a mark, and I mean, just we're talking like 55, 60 crits, and that's along with some protection on the swine skiver as well. This ability is impeccably strong, has great row diversity, which is why I think it's one of the probably best generic attacks in the game. Bounty Hunter, Come Hither, number 6. You might think it's strange to have a pool as one of the best abilities in the game, but there's a reason for that. This pool marks. It has pretty good accuracy at 110, and the great thing about this ability is it's anywhere on your side of your lineup, so you can pretty much pull whoever you want in positions 3 or 4. It obviously doesn't hit positions 1 and 2, but if you're going to pull someone forward 2, it's not going to work. Since I'm not including DLC, there's probably a pool slightly better than this on the shield breaker, but once again, I'm not going to get into that. But the fact that this pool marks, and you might say, well, only marks for like a couple of rounds. For the most part, if you're going to use a mark, you're probably going to try to destroy your opponent in a turn or 2 anyway, so you don't need marks lasting 3 or 4 rounds, especially because this doesn't have a debuff. It does have a high minus damage modification of 80%, but you're not really looking to do damage. And the fact that it can do damage, which means you can lend yourself to criticals, which obviously stress heals, and gives the bounty hunter his crit buff, which increases damage versus marked. So if you get a crit, you pull him forward, and then you can do your collect bounty, which does a lot of percent damage versus marked, 90%. So he can essentially set himself up with a critical. He can really accelerate his damage quickly while still doing the damage. So I really like this ability, decent accuracy, can really annihilate stress damage dealers well, and set up people like Arbalest and the Hound Master I just talked about. Plague Doctor, Blinding Gas, number 5. I'll admit, I love the Plague Doctor's kit. There's a couple of skills I'll talk about in consideration, but I do believe Blinding Gas is probably one of the best. I know it does 0 damage and can only be used in positions 3 and 4 on your side, but a double stun at an accuracy of 115 for a 140% stun skill chance is way too strong not to have on the Plague Doctor. You can stun both positions, and if you put on a trinket to increase stun percentage to 160%, you now have 160% to stun the back row, typically where the stun resistances aren't the highest. It depends where you go, but for the most part, you might be talking like a 70-60% stun resist chance back there, maybe on the high end 90%, so you can still get a 70% stun skill chance on 2 people. Blinding Gas, Plague Grenade, Blinding Gas, Plague Grenade, and at that point the fight's over. The only, I guess, bad thing I could say about this ability is it's limited in use, so if you're going to use it in like 30, I don't know how many round fights, but for the most part, any generic fight, this will work extremely well, and this could even work against certain bosses, maybe for a turn. Most bosses have a huge stun resist chance, but if you want to maybe get the stun skill up to 170% chance, you could try it, but for the most part, I would recommend using other stuns for single target. Grave Robber, Lunge, number 4. Though I may not be a huge fan of the Grave Robber, that does not mean I cannot see the benefits to the ability of Lunge and the potential setups that can just make this ability do some disgusting critical strikes without a lot of setup. Its accuracy is already great at 115, has a crit modifier 12% rivaling Rage, and that oh so juicy 40% more damage. This ability also gets you more damage versus Blight, and can hit that coveted 3rd position, which is why it's up here, just like Rage. This ability is easily amplified via using Shadow Fade, obviously, having any other people blight for you, excellent synergy with Abominations, Plague Doctors, Shield Breakers. I would recommend though you have someone else set her up, because the amount of damage you'll get from Poison Darts into Lunge is less than doing Shadow Fade into Lunge, so there's other individuals that can set her up. This ability is almost a delete button with some accuracy and damage increased trinkets. This ability can easily one-shot people even without getting critical strikes. It's not necessarily critically reliant, but if you do get a critical strike, that person is definitely gone. So this ability is a quick third row position deleter and works well in shuffle lineups. Jester, Battle Ballad, number 3. Battle Ballad. It's such a great ability, plus 10 accuracy, plus 6% crit, and plus 4 speed. It's really hard to find any other skills in the game that are this great and that can stack upon themselves. The closest ones that you can kind of get to is Command on the Man-at-Arms, and I don't think it necessarily rivals how good Battle Ballad is, because I don't think it does as much. And then we talked about Bellow before. It just still doesn't give you all the stuff that Battle Ballad does, and Battle Ballad is also an ability that is guaranteed every time, unlike Bellow. After about 2 rounds of this, you're essentially going first, 20 accuracy and 12% more crit. This helps out a lot of frontliners on your team that typically lack all these areas and you don't have enough focus rings to go around typically, or you can leave off a focus ring and go more buff or more speed already than you normally would if you have Battle Ballad available. This ability essentially makes people who are lower in accuracy become relevant once again, and doesn't necessarily make you to always have to have a accuracy trinket on, which is huge because only having 2 trinket slots does get fairly limiting quickly. Battle Ballad, absolutely great, and also adds 30% damage to his finale and 8% crit to his finale, so if you do this for a turn or 2, you can move forward to use some finale and then drop that beautiful hammer. It's a great ability, absolutely helps save you a lot. Speed in Darkest Dungeon is probably one of the most important things, and this gives it to you at 4 at a time. It can stack up to 12 or 16, I believe. Highwayman, Duelist Advance, number 2. We had to put a Repost in here because Reposts absolutely make the game so much easier, and the reason why this Repost is significantly better than Man-at-Arms is just in terms of damage. The Highwayman's damage is better than the Man-at-Arms, the accuracy of 110 is very good, and 9% crit modifier on the first ability itself. Positions 2 to 4 on your side, and enemies positions 1 to 3 on their side. Once again, this can hit the 3rd position already with a pretty good crit modifier chance. Therefore, a critical strike on the enemy lineup with this ability can actually set you up into a critical strike and then kill on Repost, which means you don't take any stress damage, DOT damage, whatever was going to come from that ability. Absolutely amazing. The Repost itself lasts 3 turns, which is very good, and the Repost minus damage is actually only negative 15%. It's not that crippling at all, plus a 5% crit modifier on that slice. Therefore, people who do AoE abilities such as Swine Drummers, Fusiliers, Madmen with Accusation. I mean, there's so many single targets and AoE abilities that this ability will just shut down. If you pair this with Battle Ballad, you get that extra accuracy, you get that extra % crit chance, and you can just be critting on Repost all day. Certain enemies will just end up just annihilating themselves, which will speed up your fights so much quicker. Repost is probably one of the most broken things in the game, and the Highwayman easily has the best one. And now, for the best healing skill in the game. Occultist, Weird Reconstruction, number 1. That's right.
Who the heck let this guy in here? Get him out! Get him out! Get him out! Get him out!
I'm sorry about that, guys. Vestal, Divine Comfort, number 1. Alright, all jokes aside about the Weird Reconstruction, this is easily the best healing skill in the game. Yeah, sure, it looks like it's only 4 to 5 at level 5, but with a couple of HP increased trinkets, this bad boy easily gets up to 7 to 9 very quickly. And 7 to 9 HP across the board with ranks 2 to 4 on your side hitting everybody. It's an instant complete death store saver. It can help you against certain bosses and make certain bosses almost irrelevant. You can do this twice after fights and get almost everyone capped out. It's an absolute amazing ability. If you're not stunning with the Vestal, you're probably mashing Divine Comfort. Even if you like mace bashing Vestals, you can still Divine Comfort. Therefore, it's absolutely ridiculous in the amount of heals you can get and how much you can keep pumping out. And if you do get a critical heal, that can easily be a 14 heal on one person. We're not talking like a Divine Grace 14, we're talking a critical 14, just AoE across the board. It's so good. Just absolutely so good. This ability is essentially the best crutch you're going to have as a new player, and honestly, if you don't know what to do with a party, and if your party comp doesn't work very well, Divine Comfort alone will probably push that party through the dungeon. Maybe not very well in terms of stress, but for the most part, you get your party out alive. I'm going to talk about some mentions now that I think could have floated around there, maybe with DLC, without DLC. And the first one is going to be Manacles. Manacles with the DLC, Colors of Madness, can easily have one of the best stuns in the game. They can hurt the third row, which makes it very good, and the stun percent chance goes through the roof. Manacles also has a pretty good accuracy, sitting at 115, and the damage modification on it is only at negative 60%, so you can actually do some decent damage while stunning the third position, which is just once again invaluable. So the amount of damage you can do, and the fact that you can get it up to like easily 160, 180 with certain trinkets makes it one of the better stuns in the game for sure. I mentioned Hound's Harry for a second. I'll kind of talk about it a little more here. And like I said, the only thing that really didn't sell me on it is the fact that it needs to bleed to go off. It has a negative 75% damage modification, and it also has a negative % crit modifier at 1. Accuracy is 105. It's not the worst accuracy based skill in the game, it is average, and with a increased accuracy trinket or Ballad, this can actually get pretty darn good at getting crits and stress healing that way. And what's also really nice about it is it does have a 150% bleed chance. If you do put on this bleed skill trinket, you can actually get that up to about 170, and even people in the Cove rock maybe even like 90 to 100. That's a 70% chance. You can easily do a lot of bleed builds in the Cove with Hound's Harry. And some of those guys have really high protection, so you know you can just kind of hit all those guys across the board, add 3 bleeds per turn, get okay damage in there. I thought it was a pretty good ability, but after a little bit I definitely didn't think it was top 10. I love the Plague Doctor's kit, and there's 2 skills I'll honestly talk about which I think were easily floating around some of my favorites here. We're going to talk about Battle Medicine, positions 3 or 4 on your side, and it will heal you for 3 HP, but it's the curing the Blight and Bleed. That is so amazing. Essentially, if you get hit by a Nuka Savage for 8 to 10 DOT, depending on which level you're around. But if you have 10 bleed DOT, you go, nope. You heal your person for 3, and you save yourself for 10. So it's kind of like a 10-point HP turnaround, which is massive. You cannot underestimate how good that is. And then the other one I was thinking about is Disorienting Blast. It's a pretty good single-use stun. It shuffles and clears all corpses, so you have individuals who are very reliant on having corpses continuously being cleaned up, which is why I don't like Purge as much, because I like the Plague Doctor, and I often purge the bodies with the Plague Doctor instead. Just for fun, if you're wondering, hey, if I would have added DLC, which skill would I probably have done? I probably would have taken out Hounds Rush or Rage, probably taken out Rage, and I would have replaced it with Pierce from the Shield Breaker DLC. It's very good if you know the Shield Breaker. It's a decent accuracy, it's armor piercing, crit modifier, I mean, can hit anywhere, can be used almost anywhere. For the most part, without completely saying what the ability does or what it looks like, I would say that Pierce would probably replace, on right here, I'd say Rage. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you agree or disagree on what made the top 10. It really does. I think this one was a little less controversial, at least for the top 5, hopefully. The bottom 5 you could probably argue in and out depending on what you frequently run and which characters you like. Bolster, it was kind of a weird one, but I do think it is a great ability. And if you play the slower game, it's absolutely great in terms of buffs. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe below.